within and hospital use, I would suggest you ignore the date admitted line for now, because there's a glitch in there that I haven't tested yet to see if they fixed it, that every time I tried to clear out, because you can clear it, just make it go away, so I don't want to talk about an admission date, it deletes my entire scenario that I just spent 15 minutes working in. And I've reported that glitch to them, hopefully it's fixed. But if you leave it there, it doesn't hurt a thing. And you say update and it's there. The other thing right next to it is story. So besides the basic patient information, you can write in clinical history, medical history, you can put in additional details. And again, it's a way to share the information with the student because it'll pop up on that chart. So if you want to start the call, send the information in. They can pull it up and say, you've got a 30-year-old male who's got a history of this, this, and this, and go down that line and give them the story on their chart so they've got that to start with. Does
that have a meds list on it?
That's an option. It doesn't have one that's created, which would be nice. There's not like a drop down or anything, but it's basically just an open paragraph that you can put.
So like when you go on that call, the 67-year-old male, and wife comes out with a laundry list or a bucket of meds, these are what they have.
Yeah, and the only option, it's just one big narrative box. So you could put all of that in there. You make it as elaborate as you wanted in terms of copying and pasting or typing in a whole elaborate story if you want to do it that way. And you have mechanism, if you're using another iPad as the chart, a way to hand them that to have a starting point. The other thing is if they're using that chart, like I said, when they capture a 12 lead, you can send it to their chart. So now they also have that in front of them. If you're doing hospital-based stuff, you can also go in here and you can add labs. So if you want to send them an ABG, you can send them an ABG. You set the parameters wherever you want them to be for all the blood gas values and send it and it pops up. If you want to send them other things, you've got under media, you can add CT scans, you can add chest x-rays. They've got a huge collection of CTs, mostly of the head, but they've also got some facial CTs, chest x-rays, goes on and on. So there's a huge library here of images that you can put in
on the x-rays
as well. What's that?
On the x-rays and the CTs and even the patient pictures, can you upload your own?
Yes.
So
You can upload
you don't have to rely on theirs.
Exactly. You can upload your own sound files, your own images, your own x-rays. You can add, create your own library of those that you add to
Can you
it.
add respiratory sounds like lung sounds?
They have them. I don't know. So what they have in here, it's playing on this, so you probably aren't going to hear it.
Turn it up.
Yeah, that's
Sounds
probably.
about-
From a
sounds
distance,
what lung
it's-
sounds are like.
So it has wheezing, it has 3 different types of wheezing, tracheal, a squawk, 3 different types of crackles, bronchial sounds, bronchial vesicular, grunting, stridor are the options that it has. Right now, when you do that, it comes out of here, unless you link this to a Bluetooth speaker, which you can do and either have. I actually saw one the other day, they're about a little like 1.5-inch cube that I was thinking about putting on a pendant that you could put around a patient's neck or around a mannequin's neck so the sounds are coming from up close. So better option if you're doing lung sounds. I'll show you before we get done here. But they do have those in there. They have bodily noises. You got the nice. So you got a whole variety of stuff.
Can we record our own?
If you want to, you can. You can record your own bodily noises and add them. Yes, you can. I don't want to be here. You also have conversation and responses, all with a nice Australian accent. So anyway, I have not played with that. I've never liked that with the high fidelity mannequins of trying to hit a button to get it to say what I want it to say out of the mannequin. I don't know about you guys. I've never found that as useful, but then we do a lot more stuff with role players than we do with mannequins anyway. And that just, I don't know, that gets a little weird trying to play the conversation game by finding the right response and hitting the button. By then, you've lost any sense of a real flow of a conversation, right? So, might work.
Unlike the life pack there, when you have a scenario that's terminated, can you do on that screen there a code summary like you would on a life pack?
I don't believe so. I don't know.
So if you go to options,
Fire this thing up and see. I don't know if it's still going on. I think I killed the scenario, but we'll see.
well, I wonder if is there any storage? So
Options.
archives.
So we go to archives. some functions are not simulated.
There you go.
So,
Okay.
not yet,
Okay.
not yet. So,
But there is some sort of archival storage in there if you choose to print it.
correct.
Okay.
You can print it, which means it's on the device, and then you can print it,
Okay.
either send it to a printer, save it as a PDF, airdrop it, whatever. But there's a way to capture parts of this. Like I said, that part I really haven't explored, so I can't say a lot about what you can do or what the options are for output.
And you can do full pacing, synchronize, the whole 9 yards and all these.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and with the pacing, you can go in your scenario settings and tell it where you want the pacing to be successful, or you don't want the pacing to be successful. So you can set what energy level it's going to take for the conversion. So unlike our old rhythm generators, where every student, once they've gone through it once, they know 70 is how high you go before, and they get pre-programmed to think, oh, you just hit that thing till it's 70 and then move on to the next thing because it's going to capture, right?
Right.
You can set it.
Say it
You can set it lower, or say it captures, exactly. You can set it where you want, and it will respond the way it ought to. Let's see. So the checklist that I mentioned is when you build a scenario, you can also build a checklist, and it's over here on the side. And so what they have is basically either a checkbox or a graded item. And if you choose checkbox, you could say, I'm just going to type in airway and say update. It just added an item for me that's on my checklist that says airway. And it's either a check or a no. And so as I'm going down, did they open the airway? Yes, they get a little green check mark done. That gets added to the log. So that will get timestamped. So if there are interventions that you expect them to do, require them to do, you can do it that way.
That's distracted when they do.
This is what we were just
initial
talking
assessment.
about.
Exactly, initial assessment, intervention, doing that stuff. You could build the entire physical assessment thing. It'd be one long checklist, but it'll scroll indefinitely. So you could just be going along, clicking yes or no on the things that they got, and have a timestamp to show it. So we can have that debrief conversation, go, yes, you did evaluate the airway 10 minutes in a patient who wasn't breathing. That's not quite quick enough, right? So yeah, so you've got that option. The other option is you can create items that are graded, and you can do, I think max is, so the minimum, you can set any minimum score and any maximum score. I've never checked to see how high it goes. I don't know. It goes above 30. So for each individual thing, you can set a range. And so then if you set a range, like with most of our stuff, I do 0, 1, and 2. Either they nailed it, they didn't do it at all, or they're somewhere in between. That's kind of our assessment tool for an awful lot of the skills. And if you save it that way, then it comes up. Come on. Like I said, I'm overwhelming this poor little thing's brain. Uncritical. Oh, I didn't give it a name, that's why. I have to call it something before it'll save it. And then it comes up with a plus minus, and I just indicate how many points they get. And so it starts at 0, and I can give them anywhere to, whatever your grading scale is. So if you have a 0 to 5 scale, you can say, yeah, that was worth a 2. So anything you put in the checklist can either be a yes, no,
Much more complicated.
or a scoring. What's that?
It's Corey, it's much more complicated than that.
Can you toggle between?
I don't know if this is capable of Corey scoring. You'll have to talk to the developers to see if they can put that in there. Can you what?
I was wondering if you could toggle between like scenes. Let's say you're doing CPR, so you hit the CPR scene, and it shows you the rhythm of CPR, and then you go back to the original scenario, if that makes sense. Or as the controller, do you have to keep going in there and just changing the
Nope.
rhythm?
Nope, you can, and I should have showed you that before. So let's see if we're still on a scenario or not. Oh, I turned it off. I keep stopping and starting this and confusing things greatly.
I know as a proctor, you have to pay attention of when they're actually doing the CPR,
Yes,
when they stop, and all
and
that stuff.
And that's one of the challenges that I don't know how you get around that one.
Yeah.
So if we've got a scenario going and they're doing, let me turn on their monitor so they've got it, and their patient goes into cardiac arrest and they start CPR. The minute they start CPR, there's a little CPR button in the corner. You hit that and it gives you a CPR waveform. If you have the filtered ECG on because you're using a Zoll, then it shows you that as well. So you see the CPR waveform and you see the underlying rhythm. So if I change that to my post-arrest rhythm while they're still doing CPR, It's gonna really piss me off if this thing doesn't do what it's supposed to. I think I'm just making everything really tired right now besides me. It should show you an underlying rhythm when you change the rhythm. It should show up so you see that clue that something's happening. The other thing you can do is you can change, and I don't think I did that on this particular one. I didn't have any end-tidal CO2 value, but you can program it in. Let me turn that off because it's annoying me. You can pre-program each of your events so that you have a cardiac arrest, and the post-cardiac arrest, your end-tidal CO2 jumps to whatever you want it to be as another clue that they just got a spontaneous
So if you just hit
circulation
that
back.
CPR button again, that turns it off?
Yep, you turn it on and they're doing CPR, you turn it off and they stop CPR.
Very cool.
Hit it again, they're doing it.
Do they also?
And that's still hard to keep track of. It's really easy to forget that button.
Yep.
And everything's going on and you're watching things, and when they stop compressions, you gotta hit it off.
Yeah.
Or else they're still seeing the CPR waveform. Corey?
They also have a, do they not? This is a question, even though I'm making a statement. Don't they have an AHA approved CPR
Yes. They-
module that can go straight to the mannequin?
They do, and it's not hooked to the mannequin. What they ended up doing, the first generation was a puck, a little sensor built into a puck that you had to put on the chest. Had a lot of issues with that. So what comes with your units that you're buying, they didn't have this when I got it, what comes with the unit now is 2 wristbands that are the sensors.
Gotcha.
So you can have up to 2 people wearing it unless someone takes it off to give it to someone else when they switch compressors. But whoever's on the chest pumping, it connects up, and just like you would have on a Zoll, it'll give you that CPR performance feedback.
So you don't have to push a button.
Question. So I don't know.
That would be interesting.
If it
That would be interesting. I don't know if it changes the waveform. I know it doesn't change things like capnography.
Yeah.
You know, if your CPR performance is poor, it's not going to start showing you a worsening capno or anything.
We'll find
but
out.
I'm not sure if it's fine-tuned enough that when you start compressions, it switches it into the CPR view on the ECG. It should.
One of the
That
students
would make a
would
lot of
start
sense, that
messing with
once
you.
that thing's going, yeah, exactly, they can be wiggling the sensor over here to the side, it's gonna have the same kind of look to it, but,
That'd be
Otherwise,
you.
what's the point of having somebody wear a sensor if it doesn't hook directly into?
yeah. Well, it links up, it shows you the CPR performance. What I was saying is, I don't know if it'll change the ECG tracing, because by hitting the CPR button on the
Yeah.
controller, it changes it to make it look like someone's doing CPR at whatever rate
On
you've
the-
set your CPR protocol
On the
at.
Philips, it has a CPR monitoring performance waveform. So that's probably what that's used for.
Yeah, and it could be. And it's pretty interesting process for these guys, because they're trying to make this technology match up to every monitor on the market, basically. And none of them do it exactly the same way or show up the same way. So, yeah, so there's some limitations. But again, they're pretty open to fixing a lot of that stuff. And somehow I just turned that one off. That's still over there. So what I was going to do here is open it up, if it will. And what you can see, if you guys want to play with this, I'll just let you guys start playing with it. So it's not connected to anything, but if you want to play with the scenarios and see what's involved, there's basically a few menus there and different options. And the more you dig in there, the more menus you can
You
find.
don't want this one around.
What's that?
You're not gonna connect them.
I wasn't going to connect that one yet, but I guess we could.
I don't care.
And then this one, if anyone wants to play with this one is connected up to that one right now. So you can either look at the scenario settings, interact with it, play with it, whatever you want to do.
Stand clear. Stand clear. Stand clear.
Stand clear.
Stand clear.
You gotta charge it first.
No, you're not connected.
You're not connected here. Nathan is. Currently, no monitor is available.
Okay, so, hold on.
You charge, go. Bam.
Let me fire this one up and I'll,
Did you shop?
Does that make the noise for your charge?
okay, so now try to connect again.
Did you
And I think I
charge it?
killed all the volume on that one, is why it's not.
Jared, did you hit charge?
I did.
That's Navy, so that's the one that's
But it
available.
Didn't make the noise?
And there's
he
on the
killed all
controller
the
you're holding there, Nathan, top right corner, there's a little sound button. If you click on that and slide that thing over a little bit,
There you go.
Doing a sync or are you just doing defib?
I have no idea.
So where do I
Should
go,
be.
Gary?
Okay, that's weird. So,
How do I make it?
you got that, and that, you can pick, I would just pick a rhythm just to determine a scenario, I just picked
What
an
happens if you
all
dump
shot.
a
So you have
charge?
something
I
to
couldn't
go.
figure out how to do that stupid thing.
Yeah, and that one was when I was doing with the nursing conference, so it's got the nurse hospital, it's monitor, or whatever. So if you want to change the monitor, go there, click on the monitor. So with any images, you just touch the image you want to change and it brings up your options.
Alright, so
As
then,
soon as you change it, there you go.
alright, so
And you
like,
haven't started the scenario yet, so you're just getting everything ready right now.
started, they hook up to blood pressure, where is it?
And do you still have the CPR on there? Little red button down there.
There
Then you'll see the underlying
Oh,
rhythm.
maybe that's why you couldn't shock.
That's why you
Because
couldn't, because CPR was still going. It was preventing you from
Trying to
shocking
shock
with
me.
that.
Where do your blood pressure?
Shock them twice.
Yeah, you might have been just touching it a little too
there you
quick.
So you turn the volume on, where's the volume?
So volume is there, and that looks like it should be